We're talking about Day 5 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, specifically the testimony of Cassie Ventura, as reported by Inner City Press. What Cassie allegedly described under oath paints a disturbing picture. Far removed from the world of music and celebrity, she spoke about things like hidden underground areas, alleged drug use, and encounters with unidentified women. Some of the graphic details have been toned down to align with platform guidelines, but the essence of her sworn statements remains. Her cross-examination on this particular day reportedly left the courtroom in shock and could be crucial in understanding this high-profile case. We're exploring what might have been concealed within Diddy's prominent image. Day 5 of the trial began with a palpable sense of expectation. News reporters were there earlier than usual, the public seating was completely full, and even the jury members seemed especially focused. There was a tense atmosphere. Everyone anticipated significant revelations because Cassie Ventura was about to continue her testimony. Unlike previous days, which involved emotional but more standard legal proceedings, this day felt different. Something big was anticipated. Cassie entered the courtroom calmly, accompanied by security, and sat facing the defense team. She appeared weary but composed. The judge made sure to remind everyone about maintaining strict courtroom behavior. Then, the questioning started. The defense team seemed to change its approach, moving past typical questions about their relationship. Instead, they asked Cassie to describe Diddy's Los Angeles mansion in detail, its design, how it was laid out, and its security measures. These questions initially seemed focused on architecture, until a specific one changed the entire mood of the courtroom. "Ms. Ventura," the defense lawyer asked, "were you ever in a tunnel beneath that property?" A brief silence fell. You could hear people trying to suppress their surprise. The prosecution objected, arguing it wasn't relevant and was based on guesswork, but the judge decided to allow the question. Cassie took a moment, then answered, "Yes." That single word electrified the room. For months, there had been whispers and online discussions about these alleged tunnels, Reddit posts, unconfirmed stories, even jokes in the media, but nothing had been officially confirmed. Until now, the defense lawyer pressed. "And what did you see when you went down there?" "I didn't want to go," Cassie started. "He told me to follow him, saying he had something to show me. He seemed to be under the influence. I was confused, but I went." She described how the entrance wasn't inside the main house but located outside, cleverly hidden by plants near the pool area. It appeared like a simple landscaped slope, but beneath the foliage was a hatch. What she claimed to have seen next was unforgettable. There were concrete stairs, steel doors, she testified. It got colder as we went deeper. And when we got inside, I realized this wasn't just some panic room. It was something entirely different. She paused before saying more, but everyone in the courtroom sensed they were about to hear something deeply unsettling. Cassie's voice remained steady as she recalled the interior, which made her account even more chilling. She sounded detached, almost as if she'd mentally replayed this moment countless times. The entrance led to a long hallway with plain walls and fluorescent lighting. There was a constant buzzing sound, like machinery. It didn't feel like part of a home. It felt more like some kind of institution. She described the walk as confusing, with winding corridors, no windows, and no phone signal. "Diddy," she said, walked ahead, muttering to himself about proving a point. She considered turning back but didn't, noticing a particular look in his eyes that warned her not to argue. After passing through a secured door opened with a keypad, Cassie said they entered a large, chamber-like room. It had red lighting, cameras in the corners, and leather furniture. There was a distinct smell, cleaning agents, sweat, and something else I couldn't identify. This room, she alleged, wasn't for relaxation or fun. It looked like it was designed for a specific purpose. It felt clinical but also disturbing. You could sense that bad things had occurred there. She pointed out specific details. Shelves were filled with items, masks, ropes, oils, and latex clothing. There was a rack of clothes that looked new, mirrors on the ceiling and floor, and sound-dampening material on the walls. None of it suggested a playful fantasy, she stated. It felt like it was about control, built to exert power over someone. The defense pressed her. "Had you ever seen anyone else down there?" Cassie paused before answering. Yes. She described seeing two women wearing wigs and masks. One was lying very still on a couch, and the other was sitting near a tripod that had a camera on it. They didn't speak or move much. He referred to them as performers. I wasn't introduced. When asked how long she stayed, she replied, "Not long. I made an excuse, said I felt unwell." Back upstairs, she said she locked her bedroom door. Hours later, Diddy confronted her. He allegedly told her, "You never saw anything. You don't talk about anything. That place is for me, not for you." That was the only time she ever went down there, she testified, but the experience stayed with her. When asked for more details about the layout, Cassie provided even more unsettling descriptions. "It wasn't just one room. I saw 3 others. One had no lights at all, just a bench in the middle and chains attached to the wall. The second had a full-length mirror and a digital control panel next to a bed. I didn't know what it was for. The third room just had a chair and a box of wires. That's when I told him I wanted to leave." She said Diddy didn't argue but laughed, telling her she wasn't ready and that it was too real for her. But what disturbed her most were the words he allegedly whispered before opening the last door. "This is where I bring the ones I own." Cassie also described hearing muffled sounds from behind one door, like distorted music playing through a speaker. "Then I realized it was voices," she said. She couldn't identify who was inside and didn't want to. She left the tunnel that night feeling shaken, she testified. "My clothes smelled like that place for hours." In court, she admitted she never told anyone, not friends or family. "Because I didn't want to disappear. That's how it felt. Like if I said something, I'd vanish, like those girls in the room." The prosecution asked why she was speaking out now. "Because it's not just about me anymore," she replied. "Because he's still doing this. Because if someone else ends up down there and never comes back..." Her voice trailed off. The judge called for a short break, but the courtroom remained still. Everyone seemed to understand that what had just been shared was more than testimony. It felt like a serious warning. When court resumed, the focus of the questions shifted from the physical space beneath the mansion to alleged events that happened above ground, which were described as equally disturbing. The defense attempted to portray Cassie's experiences as consensual by focusing on the term freak-offs. This phrase had already come up in text messages between her and Diddy, often used in a playful or coded manner. But now, the court was about to hear its alleged true meaning. "Can you explain what a freak-off was?" the defense attorney asked. Cassie nodded slightly. "It was a planned night," she explained. "It always involved sexual activity, sometimes with multiple people, and sometimes it was filmed. He would assign roles. There were instructions. Sometimes drugs were a required part of it." The jury was shown text messages reportedly from years ago. In one exchange, Diddy allegedly wrote, "Game starts at 10 p.m., no breaking character until 8 a.m. In another, "Bring candles, grab outfits, I want you in a wig." Cassie clarified that these weren't rare occurrences. They happened regularly, at least twice a month. Some were spontaneous, but others were organized like business meetings, with specific times, schedules, and people brought in by his assistants. She admitted she sometimes agreed to participate. But agreeing, while under the influence of drugs, is not true consent. "I was often high. Sometimes I didn't remember what I had done." The prosecution stepped in to clarify that these events, which Diddy allegedly called sessions in writing, often took place in luxury hotels or his private homes. "Did any of these occur in the tunnel?" the prosecutor asked. Cassie took a moment. "Yes," she said. She described one event where she was allegedly instructed to wear a latex suit and stay silent for the entire night. "I was told I'd be punished if I broke character." The guests that night allegedly included strangers. "He never gave names. I was told to trust him." One message presented as evidence included an alleged chilling line from Diddy. "This time I want control. No safe word." Cassie testified that she often didn't feel in control of her own body. "Afterward, I felt empty. I wasn't sure who I was anymore." She would later delete videos and photos, she said. Not because of shame, but out of fear. Fear that if I spoke up, something worse would happen. The questioning then turned to the alleged role of drugs in these encounters. What substances were commonly used during these events? The prosecution asked. Cassie answered without hesitation. Opiates, MDMA, benzodiazepines, marijuana, but mostly pills I didn't ask for. Sometimes I didn't know what I'd taken until I passed out. She testified that Diddy or his staff often gave her the drugs. He'd say it was something to help me relax, but it made me feel disoriented, slow, and compliant. She recalled one night waking up on the floor of his Miami property, sweating, with a camera light still on. I don't know how I got there. I don't know who was in the room. She told the court that she eventually began to suspect that videos were being kept. He'd tell me, "You're mine forever now." At first, I thought it was just words. Then I realized he was documenting things for control. The defense challenged this, asking if she ever saw these videos. Only once, briefly, a clip on his laptop. It was me and two men. I didn't remember it happening. She said she begged him to delete it. He told me, "I keep everything for leverage." Cassie explained how this alleged control went beyond the bedroom. If I left the house without checking in, he'd call 50 times. If I didn't answer, he'd threaten to ruin everything. She also suspected he instructed people in his circle to stop supplying her with drugs directly, claiming she was stealing from him. It was like he was cutting off my access to anything outside of him. I was completely dependent. At one point, she claimed she tried to get help through a high-end rehab facility disguised as a spa, but he found out. He showed up, told them I was just being dramatic. I checked out the next day. The courtroom listened silently as she admitted to trying multiple times to quit pills on her own. But I couldn't. Not with him still in my life. As her testimony continued into the afternoon, the prosecution started a new line of questioning. "Were you the only one?" Cassie shook her head. "No, I wasn't the only woman. Not by a long shot." She testified that during several freak-offs, other women were present. Sometimes escorts, sometimes women I didn't know, sometimes celebrities. They'd arrive by car service. Sometimes they were masked. Sometimes they were crying. I didn't ask questions. I was too scared. She identified Tiffany Red, a former friend, as one of the few people who allegedly saw what happened privately. Tiffany was at my 29th birthday party. She saw things. She told me it wasn't okay. I didn't listen. The court revisited an open letter Tiffany Red wrote years later, reportedly published in Rolling Stone, which criticized Diddy's alleged behavior. She tried to speak out. She was silenced. The prosecution pushed further. Did any staff members witness what was going on? Yes, Cassie said. His assistants helped coordinate. They knew when women were arriving. They cleaned up afterward. I don't know how much they knew, but they weren't blind. She also recalled a moment when she realized her privacy was gone. I caught one of his assistants walking in on us once. He didn't even react, just said, "Sorry, boss." The defense argued this didn't prove criminal behavior, but Cassie's words seemed to resonate. It wasn't about sex, she stated. It was about obedience, submission. He needed to feel untouchable. And when asked why so many people allegedly stayed silent for so long, her answer was quick. Because we thought no one would believe us. Because he's Diddy. She paused. But now the truth is out, and I'm not the only one ready to speak. As the courtroom prepared for the next part of her testimony, the prosecution moved to what was described as the most harrowing portion yet: allegations of physical abuse. Cassie had already described alleged manipulation, the underground tunnel, and disturbing parties. But what came next was not about implications. It was about alleged physical harm, bruises, and injuries. "Did Mr. Combs ever physically assault you?" the prosecutor asked. Cassie nodded, looking down. "Yes, many times." She described early alleged incidents, him grabbing her wrist too tightly, pushing her during arguments. He always apologized afterward, promised it would never happen again, but it always did. The court was shown photos of a cut above her eyebrow. Cassie confirmed it was from a night she came home late after having dinner alone. "He thought I was cheating. I wasn't." She claimed he was intoxicated, paranoid, and aggressive. "I was supposed to be packing for a trip, but I was tired. I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up to him screaming. I don't remember much after that, just the pain. She also recalled allegedly being kicked in the back after he read a text message from another man. The prosecution asked, "Do you remember who it was?" "Kid Cudi," she replied. "He thought we were having an affair." She said they had dated briefly when she and Diddy were broken up, but he couldn't let it go. He brought it up constantly, used it to justify everything. She explained how even when she tried to leave, he allegedly found ways to punish her. "He'd send messages through people I trusted, make sure I felt watched, make sure I remembered who was in control." When asked why she didn't go to the police, she said, "Because I didn't think anyone would believe me. He had power. I didn't." Then she told the court something that had a profound impact. "After one of the worst nights, he threw me off a boat in the Caribbean. Said I was dead weight. I swam to shore and still went back to him." At that moment, one juror was visibly affected. The judge called for a short pause, but the impact of her words was clear. Cassie had just alleged that the abuse wasn't subtle or hidden. It was physical, violent, and, according to her, very real. When court resumed, the prosecution carefully led Cassie to the final and most widely discussed alleged event, the Intercontinental Hotel incident. This wasn't just a rumor or online speculation. This was the night that reportedly changed everything. "This was the night before your movie premiere, correct?" they asked. "Yes," she replied. "I had waited years for that premiere. I was proud of the film. I wanted to celebrate, but Diddy had other plans." Cassie testified that he pressured her into one more freak-off. He said it would be quick, that it would help us reconnect. She was hesitant. "I said no at first, but he persisted. He told me it was tradition, that every big moment needed one of our nights." Eventually, she gave in. "I wanted peace. I didn't want to fight the night before my red carpet event." Cassie described being driven to the Intercontinental Hotel, believing it would just be the two of them. "But when I arrived, there were already others in the room. 2 women, 1 male dancer, candles, cameras. I knew what it was." She said she was given a pill. "He said it would help me loosen up. I was already exhausted. I took it." She remembered bits and pieces. The dancer in a mask. Diddy recording on his phone. Myself in the mirror, slurring words I didn't remember saying. Then nothing. "I woke up hours later alone, covered in sweat. I checked my phone. He had sent a message saying, 'You were amazing. I'm proud.' I didn't know what he meant." She never asked. She got up, cleaned herself, and walked the red carpet hours later, smiling. No one knew. No one saw the bruises under the dress. The prosecution then presented a series of text messages from that day. Diddy allegedly asking if she was still glowing, if she wanted to do it again after the after-party. Her answer, "I never responded." That night, she testified, something inside her shifted. For the first time, she started to imagine a life without him. It wasn't just one night. It was the last straw in a decade of control. The next morning, she flew to New York by herself. Diddy didn't follow. For the first time in years, she said, she felt like she could breathe. The final part of Cassie's Day 5 testimony was delivered quietly and thoughtfully. It wasn't as shocking as the tunnel or the alleged violence, but it was perhaps more haunting because it described what happens after the public spotlight fades. She spoke about her attempts to heal. "At first, I pretended none of it happened. I told people we just grew apart. But internally," she said, she was struggling. She began therapy. Then she started to remember details she had suppressed. Nights, people, rooms. Then came the civil lawsuit. It was filed and settled very quickly. But for Cassie, she stated, it wasn't about the money. It was about a record, a document that said, "I wasn't crazy, it happened." Her lawsuit seemed to open the way for others. In the following weeks, other women reportedly came forward with anonymous stories and new complaints. Then came an FBI raid. Law enforcement searched Diddy's properties for evidence related to alleged trafficking and coercion. What they found is still sealed, but there was widespread speculation about underground structures, files, and recording devices. Reporters asked Cassie for interviews, but she declined. "I didn't want to become a symbol. I just wanted to be free." But now, here she was, in federal court, recounting everything in detail, on the record, under oath. When asked what she hoped would result from all of this, her answer was direct. Accountability. Not just for me, but for everyone who went through that house, for every person who disappeared into those tunnels and never spoke again. And with that, her testimony for the day concluded. The courtroom was still as the judge dismissed the jury. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but the world outside quickly learned that something very significant had just occurred. Cassie Ventura didn't just testify, she brought to light a hidden world, one allegedly protected by wealth, fame, and silence. And regardless of what happens next in the trial, her side of the story is now public.